Good morning, everyone, and we are back again today with the amazing King Kurn from Trimaris. For those that you are new to watching, I'm Countess Beatrix.
And I'm Countess Lilya.
And the interviews have come together at the suggestion of Master Magnus, known as Baron Blame Monkey, for us to reach out across the kingdoms of the known world and meet the crowns of those kingdoms. Firstly, though, we would like to acknowledge the lands of the kingdoms on which we reach out to today.
I don't have that in front of me, B, so you're going to have to read it.
Okay. Good nobles, we come together in the spirit of fellowship, deepening of skills, sharing of our knowledge, and a shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in this context that I, Countess Beatrice Maria Malatesta, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather. We recognize their continuing connection to land and culture, and we pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and the elders from other communities who may be here today.
Very nice.
A very big welcome to you, Your Majesty.
Thank you.
Please excuse us not standing for you. It is definitely one of the random things that is been a change in these pandemic times.
I thought it was very nice. I have no problem with it. I think it was nice.
So we have a couple of questions that we'd like to ask you just to get to know you a bit better and give you the opportunity to promote your kingdom to us who are down the other end of the world and trying to connect with the known world itself. So do you know how your kingdom got its name and device?
Well, we are the child of a kingdom called Meridies originally, and our kingdom is called Trimeris. And see, let's check your Latin. What do you think Trimeris stands for in Latin?
Well, on your website, it says that is the 3 C's.
Oh, you cheater. Well, so yeah, tri is 3 and mer is Latin for seas. And we're in Florida, which is in the southeast of the United States, and we're the little peninsula. And so we're surrounded by water on all 3 sides. And so our kingdom device it's got a wavy. Actually, I wonder if I have a stationary. I didn't think about that. I do have one. Okay, this is not filled out. I printed it. So actually, this is our, I don't know, it's not really that big, but that's our full device. You can kind of see I wish I made a bigger one. You can see the wavy there. And a triscale for the 3 is our kind of like our badge. And what's interesting on the invitation that you sent us, I noticed that our crown was in gold. And I've never seen our crown in gold on any of our kingdom devices. So I was curious, where did you find that version of our device? And I've been around for 30 years now, so I don't think it's a really big deal. I'm not insulted. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a gold crown. I'm wearing one. So I just think it's interesting. I've never seen our device, or I've rarely seen our device with a gold crown on it. It's usually a white argent crown. So
okay.
It was where you acquired the image that was on the email.
It was through a public commons.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not that big. I saw that and I thought it was interesting because I was looking at the invitation to find the Zoom invitation and I saw that on the attachment. So, but yeah, we're surrounded by 3 C's and the triscale is our thing, and we became a kingdom I think about 5 years before I started. And so we had several kings and queens before I started, and now I'm king. So it's nice.
Nice.
Some history.
So how does one lay claim to Panama?
Say that again?
How does one lay claim to Panama?
So the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe
so we call those, we actually own the Arctic wastes. Or the Arctic, the Antarctica, those are what we call our southern wastes. And we do make frequent trips down there during the summer when it's extremely hot in Trimaris, and we go to visit our other lands and our what we govern, and we see our people down there, so it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I do know that there has been claim from Lockhart in those lands as well, Your Majesty.
There's a lot of people in Locock that I don't want to frustrate or build any animosity towards. We will respect the sovereignty of all other kingdoms.
Nicely put.
So what would you say your
So let me
kingdom
ask you a
is-
question. How did Locock get its device or its heraldry? I've seen it before. It's different than a lot of other kingdoms heraldry. So how did Locock get their heraldry? I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but I don't know
You're
that. So
quite welcome to ask us questions.
you want to save it for later? We can save it for later. I just,
Oh, no, it's a good question
Okay.
that Lil is going to answer.
Oh, thanks. We actually got our device. We initially were part of the West, and a small group of very enthusiastic and very amazing people decided that the SCA needed to come to Australia. And they basically came up with the device. And on the Lockhart device, there are the 4 stars, which is actually
Right.
Southern Cross. The colors are very similar to the Australian flag.
that's what I'm saying. It looks like a flag. So.
Yeah, it looks very like the Australian flag. So what happened was, as we progressed, the actual device came through with it. So it's actually been our device, thanks to Mistress Rowan and many of the other people who put their passion behind it, through the Principality and up until the Kingdom as well. So we didn't actually change it very much. We just kind of went, this is one that we all know and love. So it's important to have the pride in the actual device, I believe, and you probably are the same in Trimeris. So
Sure.
what is your kingdom known for across the known world?
Well, because we are in sunny Trimeris, sunny Florida, we have a lot of people that come to visit. We have Disney World, we have the beaches. So whenever people come to visit, I would say one of the things that stands out to a lot of people that come to visit Trimeris is our hospitality. In our kingdom, we're not a very large geographic kingdom. We're kind of we're a little long, but most of our activities are in the center, going up toward our kingdom is kind of shaped like a gun.
Yep.
And most of it is kind of in that center part where your revolver would be. I'm not a gun enthusiast. What is the part you click back? I'm embarrassing my friends right now. And the handle area. So my buddy is a big time shooter, and he had me shooting once, and I'm like, this is the part you go like that for. So anyway, sorry. First time I shot a pistol was only about a year. Was in the last year anyway. But we're mostly in that central area. So what's different about our kingdom as opposed to some others, whenever we have our 4 cardinal events or even our local events, we see each other, almost all of us, a really good percentage of us. And the longest drives are probably to Tallahassee, which is the barony of Oldenfeld, and we're to the center of the state. You're looking 5 hours max, if that's somewhere around there. So, but most people are within an hour, 2 hours, and that way we get to see each other. And although Trimeris, Florida is a very populated state, we're second or third right now in the country. We don't have a large population, so whenever we do have events, everybody seems to go. So that's something that we're known for. At Gulf Wars, we host a great party that we've been known for. We're on Gulf Wars 30, and it's every Wednesday night at Gulf Wars. And it's a big deal, and it's a lot of fun. And something that I take great pride in is we have a fort there. We were the first event really to have a fort, and this is not just Trimeris, this is our war with Anstura, but we were the first kingdom to actually take the fort, and we were like roaches. So sometimes we wear that roach idea with a little bit of pride. So we are not afraid these days at my age. I'm a little careful about how I go over the wall. But that's something that we've been described as roaches going over the wall, and we don't take offense to it. So anyway. Also, I would say our archery. Our archery, when it comes to combat archery, I think Trimaris innovated archery throughout the known world, and that's something I take great pride in. So, yeah.
I think you would enjoy archery here, to be honest, because our combat archery is very different to.
Well, I say that, okay, I'm proud that Trimaris created that innovation. There are certain battles that combat archery should not be a part of. I'm just saying, because I like to fight with a spear, and if you said you were a fighter, right?
Yes.
Beatrice, is that correct? Your Excellency?
Yes.
So if you fought with a spear, you know what, you're just a pincushion for the archer. So in those static battles where you're just standing in line and resurrecting and just coming back and getting shot, that's it's a chicken shoot. And not my favorite format. I love it in every other format, just not resurrection battles. So anyway, that's a personal thing, but I do like archery. Just depends on the battle. So very proud of our stamp on that too. I'll say one other thing is something that I think Trimaris does, and I think we've been doing it for a long time, is Trimaris has, I think, set the stage when it comes to scrolls. We have had a tradition in our kingdom since our birth that scrolls are a work of art, and they are just, some of the scrolls that our kingdom makes are off the chain. I mean, every single scroll that has ever been made is handmade with love and care, and our scrolls are just beautiful, and I'll put them up against any other kingdom, and everybody has their bias, but very proud of our heralds and our artists, just like you guys are. Yeah.
Very lovely.
We have a question about if we were going to travel to your kingdom, what event would you suggest would be the pinnacle event for our fighters, artisans, for socializing, and for the art of defense? Like, do you have specific events that focus on those aspects of the society?
Sure. The other than Crown, if they're going to travel here, if they're not going to move, to Trimeris, we're not the West Kingdom. Lets everybody fight. We have a rule. I applaud the West Kingdom. I think Crown is my favorite tournament. There's nothing like the feeling that you get from fighting in Crown. It's a celebration of the kingdom. And I never feel as alive as I do in Crown. But not everybody can fight in Crown because they don't live here. So if they were to come, we have another tournament called the Champion of Trimeris, which it's a big deal. It's, hey, prowess, and it's my chance to show off what I've achieved and my skills, and it's I wouldn't say that I sometimes think it's harder to win than Crown. It's different. I don't know. It's different. It's so competitive. They're usually, I look at Crown as the invitational and Champion as the open. So the open is usually bigger and the invitational is usually smaller, but the quality of the fighters in Crown can be extremely high, while in Champions, everybody's welcome and the skill level it's full gambit. So when it comes to fighting, those are usually taking place at our coronations. At Crown, we have our tournament. When it comes to Artsai, we have a couple of events. Winter Artsai is our traditional, that's our big one, usually in January. And then we have TRU, which is Trimerian Royal University. And that happened not too long ago. Usually it's over the summer. And I'm trying to remember the exact date. I can't remember. It's over the summer. Socializing, like I said, we see each other at our 4 cardinal events, but we also have an event called Hero of the Chalice, which predates our kingdom. When we were Principality of Meridias, we had our barony, our premier barony of Wyvernwood, which is in Tampa. And the Hero of the Chalice is our oldest event, as far as I know. and I'll have somebody call me up and say I'm wrong, but it's one of our oldest, if not the oldest. And it's always on right around New Year's weekend. So either the day of New Year's and it's a great time because everybody's in such a good mood for socializing. If you're ever traveling during the holidays, during the winter holidays, and you end up in Florida, it's a good time to go to an event. You know, we have a good time. For the art defense, they also have a version of the Champion of Trimaris, which is really competitive. And our kingdom has a very interesting take on how white scarves are determined. So if you ever get a chance to go to our kingdom law, it's kind of interesting. I don't want to go into it too much. I don't have it memorized, but it's when the order of defense was created, it was important to a lot of Trimarians to maintain the that something that the scarf was special. So they made some changes for it, and I got to say it's kind of interesting. So if anybody has a scarf or a rapier fighter and they want to look into that, that's something they can check. It's kind of interesting.
Sorry.
So you've reigned 4 times.
Yeah. So
what convinced you to do it 4 times?
Okay, well, so this is I started in 91, so it's it's almost my 30th year, 29th, 30th year. And I love the SCA. I think it has made me a better person in a lot of ways. And you get what you put into things. And, I fought in a lot of crowns. I fought for 10, or let's say more than 10 years, probably at least 10 or 11 years before I actually finally won one. I'd come in second a couple of times and done well a couple of times, but never really made it over the hump. And I love fighting in crown. It's just, it's a great feeling. The first time you win it, I reigned with a good friend of mine who I reigned 3 times with. And the first time we did it, my original persona was different in my court persona versus my fighting persona. I loved reading about Richard Coeur de Lion when I was younger. And so my court persona was Crusader, Third Crusade time, and which was really good when it came to garb in Trimaris because it's hot. So I could wear some of that more comfortable stuff. But my fighting harness was 8th century Irish, and my full SCA name is Kurn O'Farrell, and Farrell is it's my first name, but it's my mother's maiden name, and I am proud of my Irish heritage. And Farrell is derived from Fergal, which is fair, and fair is man, and gal is gallant, great man. So, and I thought about changing my name, but I just stuck with it. But it's my mother's maiden name, and so my fighting harness was always Irish. And my first reign, the first time you do it, you want a second crack at it, and I became Hibernian because that's what they called Ireland in Rome in Roman times. And so we were the end of Rome, and it was really, really cool. So one of the main reasons why I've enjoyed doing the reigns at multiple times is I have to have an inspiration, not just from who I'm fighting for, but there has to be a storyline. There's got to be a storyline, because that creates the shtick and that creates the shenanigans that you get to mess with your friends, right? One of the best parts about being crowned is the memories that you create with your friends and new people that just last forever. And being able to I love pulling pranks. I like pranks, and I like pulling pranks on my friends. And in Trimaris, and I assume in the other kingdoms, when you pull a prank in our kingdom, the king always wins. That's the way it works. You're not going to be king forever, so you will pay your dues later, but it's worth it. It's worth it at the time. And so I truly enjoy that aspect. So But the storyline is paramount. The storyline is, so end of Rome, like during Gulf Wars court, we were heirs. And my queen, or sorry, my princess at the time, Eridani, was, she didn't know I had this planned. And we had a shotgun or crossbow wedding in court at our court at Gulf Wars. And we had to have her sign at crossbow points, you know, and we had to have a witness sign, and nobody wanted to do it, but then they had to point crossbows at that person. And so it was officially, and I got lands for the king. And, you know, it was I love that kind of stuff. And that's the opportunity to sneak up on your friends and do those things is it's just great. Our third reign was Antony and Cleopatra. And the queen during our coronation couldn't make it. She was ill, and we were really worried about her. But our kingdom came together, and we held a second coronation. And just like the story where Cleopatra got into court undetected, rolled up in a rug, Eridani came in a rug, and she got past all of our guards, and you know, it was magical. It was just magical. And my first queen was a thespian, and she taught me a lot. Her name is Eridani, and just an amazing lady. And I took that idea, and I love the shtick and the storylines. And our current one is I'm reigning with a good friend who was already a duchess, but Queen Maisie is, I call her the tiger mom of Trimaris. She is amazing. She's one of my heroes. And Greg said I could. That's her Gregory said I could. And you know, a lot of people have wanted to fight for her because she's just an amazing person. So much energy. And so I lost the first time in the finals to fighting for her, and then the next time I won. And but our storyline right now is Boudica. So 67 AD, and she's Boudica, and she's been very, very violent. And there was even a Roman bath incident where things went south, and had to do all kinds of cover-ups, and it's a lot of fun. So to me, why do I reign? One, it's for those memories that you get to build, but you know, messing with your friends. But you got to have a story. If you're just doing it for you know, and don't get me wrong, I love making people happy and seeing their, you know, when you surprise them in court, that's a great thing. But it has to go beyond just that. It has to be, I think it's fair to say that all crowns are there with good intention. Sometimes stuff happens, and as you have sat on the throne, both of you, you know that you can't make everybody happy, but your goal is to. And I don't think anyone here has tried to sit on the throne because they had to fix something or whatever. I really believe that people that are on the throne do it because they love the SCA and want to show people their dream of how they view the SCA and try to create that image, you know. So I love that part. So I could go on. So what was your time frame during your reigns?
My belated husband, who I reigned with, he was a Scottish pick.
What? Say that again.
He's a Scottish pick. So
oh, okay, all right.
A
little hard with the accent, I guess.
Yeah. And I actually, like I said earlier on, do 16th century Ottoman. So we basically chose to not have a theme and encourage the populace to focus on their own personas and to build those during the 6 months.
Let's call that an SCA theme. My good friend Taka, yeah, that was his reign. He said we're having an SCA reign, and I think that's great too. Yeah. How about you, Your Excellency Beatrice?
We were actually along the same lines. So I reigned with a good friend, Henri, who fought for me, and we chose 10th century Saxon and Viking for what we wanted to do, but it was very much along the same lines of we didn't want a theme for our reign. We had just come off back-to-back very intense storylines from the previous reigns. So we ultimately, we were the 21st crown of Lockhart, the party crown. So
Okay.
that's
Old
how we
enough to drink.
reframed it.
But again, I don't know, what's the drinking age in Australia?
18.
Okay, well then I guess wouldn't 18 be the party crown?
Well, 18 could be the drinking crown,
Okay.
but we still celebrate the 21st as a milestone. So having your 21st birthday is a big party. Yeah.
So how long are the reigns in Trimeris?
So we have pretty much 2 per year. One of them is a little bit shorter. The summer reign, which we call the Penzic reign, is a little bit shorter. And the Gulf Wars reign, which is you fight for that one in May, and then you step down you step up on September, and then you step down in April. And the November is the next crown. This we call the summer reign, and they step up in April, and they host their crown in May, and then they step down in September. So really, it's 2 per year, but there's about a month difference, or somewhere around a month difference, because years ago when we changed the dates for Gulf Wars, we went to Gulf Wars and we just had a king and queen. We didn't have a prince and princess, and we wanted that to be part of the way our kingdom went to war. And so it worked out so that we can have a king and queen at Penzic and at Gulf Wars now, and that's been the way we do it for a very, very long time.
Nice. We do run it very differently here. So our reigns are 6 months equally. And we've actually just moving to a new crown roster. So until the end of this year, we were doing a 12th night coronation, so in January, and a midwinter coronation in July, with a May crown and a November crown. But
That's ours. We have ours is May and November. That's the same as ours.
yes.
But our step downs might be different. I mean, we're usually about 3 months of prince and princess, and then 6 months of king and queen. But I think it might be 6.5 or 6 3/4 in one of them, I think. So yeah.
No, and so January in Australia is really hot. It's right in the height of our summer.
It's our winter, it's your summer. I'm a teacher. Mundanely, I'm a science teacher, and it's amazing to tell my students that it's summertime in Australia in January, and they say, well, what about the Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever they celebrate during the winter months? They go, they don't have snow, and I'm like, no, they don't. And they're like, how can it be Christmas? Because our kids are just so used to seeing, not in Florida, but farther up north. And these days there's not as much. My brother lives in New York, and he doesn't see snow that much, as much as he used to either. But anyway,
you can tell.
Let's not go into climate change. Let's not go there. Anyway, try to keep the politics out, right?
Yeah. Santa turns up in a board shorts and with a surfboard here in Australia.
Yeah.
So how are you keeping connected? We were earlier on, we were talking about you have a Facebook page that is basically yours and Maisie's storyline. Yeah. Is that the main way you're connecting with your populace online during the pandemic, or is there other ways that you've been connecting with them as well? I did see you sing Filk on YouTube. So
I did what?
You sung Filk on YouTube.
Oh yeah, well our Maisie and I, we started a Trimaris sing along not shortly after we were still depressed about the cancellation of Gulf Wars and all the time we put into it, and we were like, we got to put our got to keep going. And Maisie and we came up with an idea of the sing-alongs, and we have a wonderful lady, Mistress Katerina, who is just an amazing singer, and she was the one we sent to the Penzic what do you call it, bardic. They have a bardic at Pensick every year, and each kingdom got a chance to send one, and so we sent her because she's just phenomenal. And but she has run that for us, and we keep promoting it. And I felt as though it's been every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night since April, beginning of April, and I think maybe sometime in April I think we started. And as Crown, I felt responsibility to participate and lead by example. So I am not a good singer. I'm not a good dancer either. I like to jump. But most of the songs I sing are drinking songs, and it's hard to mess those up. So I had a good friend named Duke Vitor, and he was larger than life. And when I was a squire, he would call you out to those aspiring knights and say, "It's your turn to entertain." And I'm like, "Oh, what do I do?" And he's like, "Well, there's your one pass. Next time you better be ready." So it forced me to at least, memorize a poem.
Yep.
Vitor was just a Shakespeare expert. He everything that Shakespeare wrote, he read, and he could recite from memory, and he could turn it into his own words, and it was amazing. And people from my generation, if they can entertain, a lot of the times it's because of the inspiration from Duke Vitor. He was an amazing guy. So, but I don't claim to be able to sing, but I'll sing a drinking song, and I'll maybe do a poem. I did dance once recently. It was there was this thing going around, the known world stance thing that was going around, and my friend did it. You guys know, I'm going to say this. You know what Rick rolling is, right? You guys know the concept of, okay, well, he didn't tell me he was doing it, so I got Rick rolled in the middle of it. And so he Rick rolled the known world with the Trimaris. It was great. They had just stepped off the throne recently. Veranda and Cherish, they're good friends of mine. They live in the Shire that I am currently residing. So that's every once in a while I'll do something stupid. I always think of the movie The Last Samurai, and have you ever seen that one? Well, in the movie there was the main samurai. There was this one part where they were in the village and there was a play going on, and something happened, and this was the king of their faction, their group, and he ended up getting up on the stage, and he mocked and joined in, and everybody loved it, because it's something about whether I'm on the throne or not, and you can probably attest to this, everyone wants to be around the crown, right? And when it's the crown's duty to make sure that everyone feels welcome and everyone feels part of everything. But when I'm not on the throne, I want to be around the crown. I mean, that's the reason why we play, to be around the crown, to help them out, to do the stupid things they tell you to do, to be a part of the royal story. And some people say, "Oh, they're always a groupie." I'm not a groupie. I have a rich life outside of the royal family when I'm not on the throne. But like when you go to war, I want to retain for my king. I want to retain for my queen. I want to be around when they go onto the field. I want to be there if they need me. I want to see the cool things they do, because they're the king, and anything they do is cool, right? And that's where the story lives. So I'm not sure how I got on that tangent. Oh, we were talking about just stuff. But anyway, I did do that song. I guess I'm getting back to where usually I'm not very good at getting back to where we were, but I think I got back to where. Yeah.
So we're going to ask you some personal history questions, just to get to know you personally a bit better.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to quiz me.
No.
No.
Okay, sure.
So
No,
when did you start in the SCA?
So I was a high school baseball coach, and I was coaching high school, and during the fall, so the students were only allowed to have a certain number of practices and games. And so we got around that rule by meeting in the park. It was not required, right? And we would have practice games, inter-squad games between the varsity and the JV and the different levels of the baseball teams. And So we were at this public park and having a good time. We were in our uniforms, and I saw these guys over to the side beating the crap out of each other. And I'm like, you know, I'm giving my signals, and I couldn't remember what I did a good job. Okay, I was a good coach, but I was just in awe. So after I said goodbye to Johnny and you know, everybody, I walked over to them, and I was trying to get rid of the parents real quick that one time. Normally I'm a talker, so I don't mind talking. And I like to pray. I'm a teacher, so I like to praise kids when it's you know, warranted. And but I couldn't wait to get over to talk to those guys. And he said, well, are you really interested? Later on my night, he became my knight, Duke Llewellyn, best knight in the SCA, best king in the SCA, best king. And that's something I aspire to. Is I did have one time somebody finally said to me, Kurn, you're my king, you know, and that was nice. But Llewellyn was my king. He's not only my king, he's my knight. And I'm not alone when I say that he was the best king Trimaris ever had. He was just phenomenal, and great knight to be a squire to. But I picked up his sword and I started whacking the tree with it. I'm wearing my baseball outfit, and they were fighting. They go, whoa, could you not, you know, hit the pine tree with that? It's, you know, because back then we were poor. This is 30 years ago, and rattan was a little harder to come by. And he goes, well, if you're interested, here's my phone number. Call me. And next day I went, and unlike some other people who want you to train for weeks and weeks, he put me in his armor the first day, and I got to fight, and that was it. And I was hooked. I made my armor. I made my first helmet. It was ugly, but it got me in. And I went to, got authorized within, you know, I started in October. I got authorized in January and went to my war at the end of January. And it was just, I've had nothing but great times in the SCA. And so that's how I got started. My friend Turl, who was also a knight, they were best friends from high school. He was there as well, and he became my roommate for a while. And so I've had a lot of my friends are, of course, in the SCA.
So who is your persona? You've given us a little bit of backstory. So
right. Well, it depends on. Currently, I'm Roman Hibernian, you know, Irish Hibernian, but nobody knows that I'm Hibernian. That's top secret. Don't tell anybody, because you can't be emperor and be from the auxiliary kingdom, right? You know, you got to be a Roman citizen. So
that's okay. This is the safe space. It's all
this is fake. This is imaginary, right? So I'm Roman, but I'm Hibernian. So you know, I've done different times of Roman history and culture, like I said, and I really like learning about Roman history. And but you know, every culture is cool. You know, every culture has awesome armor. You know, I'm my mother's side is Irish, but my father's side is Polish Jewish, and so I like you read about the hussars of Poland. Oh my gosh, they were amazing, and their armor looked so cool. And I also created a Jewish persona. I have another name that my armor would work. Ramach ben Raphael. My father's Hebrew name was Raphael. So I kind of I've toyed around with, and I would have been in the Caucasus Mountains, but it's kind of, but I definitely, everybody thinks of me as being Irish. And so like, Kurn, I thought you were Irish. What are you doing, Roman? I said, shh, Hibernian. So anyway, so but anytime during Roman, I guess I identify more with the Romano-Celtic end of Roman times. My armor is more that time. My helmet was as a copy or a recreation of the helm that was excavated from Dar el Medina in 4th century. I also have a dress helm that's the Dern. I think it's Norway. I think it's Norway. It was excavated in Norway late period Roman cavalry. So I kind of identify with later Roman, end of Roman times in you know the Western European area. When I started in the SCA, I was going to be King Arthur times, and then the armor was too hard to make, I guess, the way I wanted to make it. And then my 2 squires shamed me because their armor looked better than mine. So I had to finally get armor that I could wear on the outside, and I finally did that. probably need some tune-up right now, but it's nice to be able to wear armor that looks okay.
So you've been a knight 22 years, is that correct?
98, yeah.
Yep. How different is the fighting then to now in the SCA?
Well, it depends on the perspective that you look at it from. If you look at it from the perspective as a whole, or I could look at it from my perspective. So I'll give you a little bit of both. From the perspective as a whole, I think that the instruction has improved. If someone was as dedicated as I was, and I am the product of great instruction. Llewellyn, Terrell, Showside, Baldart, Solomon, Spider, Greg he taught me something, but kind of he was phenomenal. And there's things he taught me. He was kind of my generation, but we learned from each other. These are the great fighters that I have been, luckily I've always been able to get along with people that, and I've also let them beat me up so they feel good about sharing their ideas with me, I guess. But I've had great instruction, and I think that that's become much more accessible. And I think people have tried to define what they do a little bit more. And that kind of leads into my perspective. So when I first started in the SCA, I got away with a lot of stuff because I was pretty fast. And I think that most good fighters who reach a certain level, they have to have what I call knight speed. There's a point where you just have to be fast, and you can make up for not having as much speed by being just really cerebral. I didn't start that way. I was just really fast, and my sports background, my response, I'm pretty coordinated. I mean, one of the hardest things you can do in any sport is hit a ball coming at you at 80, 90 miles an hour and curving, and you have to hit it in between that 90 degree. It's really hard. I mean,
accurate.
Golf's hard too. Everything's different, but it's really hard to do that. And your reaction speed really makes a difference. And I got away with just that for a very long time, even after I got knighted. And it wasn't until not that I started slowing down, but I started fighting. I wanted to fight the best fighters, and I always wanted to be a knight. But my goal is still to become the best fighter I can. And I started losing to people who were just phenomenal. I probably will, but it made me go back and say, what am I doing? And I started becoming I watched everything I could, and I asked every person I could. And so it helped me define my fighting and how I teach. And so from my perspective, there's a point where you can't just rely on speed. You have to know the art, and it becomes an art. And I think that the fighting is, people will talk about calibration. Oh, we hit harder, we don't hit harder. That depends on who you're fighting. But the repertoire of technique that people have access to, our conversations and our ability to communicate about that has really improved. And I'm still learning stuff. I just learned something, in the last month, a shot that only by delving deeply into something do you learn something new. And after 30 years, I'm still learning stuff new. And I'm doing a class at the end of September, and I'm going to go over why I use a certain stance. And I'm throwing in a bonus called a little trick to play on the top fighters, because it works. And it's something that I've been using, and it's, sometimes you do it naturally and you don't know it. Sometimes you don't realize what you're doing, but you're doing something. And once you realize it, it's like, okay, let's define it and let's share it. So I don't know, it's changed a lot. And I think a lot of people are sharing more, and I like that.
Absolutely. So
You probably want to stop me. I can talk fighting.
Yeah.
You know what a
Well,
mole is, you know what a retique. Anyway, we'll go on to some other stuff.
well, I was going to actually ask you, what's your proudest moment in your SCA history?
Well, I mean, getting knighted was pretty cool, but you know what? Watching my squire get knighted and then watching his squire get knighted was pretty high up there. Really, really proud to, that was just awesome. Messing with my friends, the first time before I was won my first crown, I made this list. If I was king, right? And I literally had it. And I would show like, I'm gonna do this. I kept some things secret, and getting into to see some of those things unfold while you're, I made my knight and Earl Benin, Duke Llewellyn and Earl Benin, eat leeks in court, and it was those people that know the story. It's an awesome story. I paid for it later, but it was anybody here that knows Benin Llewellyn, they're just, Benin does all the shirts at Penzic and Gulf Wars, and he's known society wide. And my knight is just, it's like you don't mess with them, but you can when you got this thing. So those are some of them. Being able to create those memories, with people, those are just phenomenal. Memories that you make when you're on the throne with people are just phenomenal. Yeah. I would also say, going back to fighting, that I did a class not a couple years ago, and it was my first formal class. I teach anybody that comes to my practice, or whenever I go to someone else's practice. But I had been planning for this class for so long, and it was an interesting class. It was I am a different type of fighter. I use a lot of non-contact fakes and cues to beat my opponent. I'm not a big bruiser. I like to fake. The idea of faking someone out and hitting them is like, whoa, that juices me, and it makes me feel great. And if I lose 5 times and then I still get you with it, I'm like, yeah, right. So that just makes me happy. So it was an advanced class that I did on non-contact fakes, like, you will do what I want you to do. And one of my teachers was there, and he said, I've never been to a class like this, and that made me feel so good, So that was a great achievement for me, to have one of my heroes and teachers say, "Wow, you've really figured something out and developed it." So yeah, that too. That was a personal thing I felt proud about. And anyway, yeah.
So that's a highlight. What has been one of the most difficult things you've done as King of Trimeris?
Well, let's see, difficult things. This is going to sound cliche or like I'm trying to skirt. I love the SCA. I really do. And it's work to be on the throne, right? I mean, I was interviewed on by someone that was and they put it into Tournaments Illuminated, and that was one of the questions, or what was not quite the question, but what are the challenges? And I think it repeats. It's important to mention this topic of, being on the throne is a joy. First of all, Trimaris is very generous and helpful with their crowns, and I appreciate that. Everyone should want to fight in crown tournament, and if someone who isn't ready wins, then, or someone who doesn't have, it shouldn't be determined by they have a good job. That's, if you have a job, that's your job. And if you're not a millionaire or someone who makes a ton of money, you should not feel like you can't do the job, because your kingdom should be there to support you. And I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. The part that becomes difficult is if I miss work and I run out of days and I don't get paid. So, but the hardest part is, in my opinion, is putting in the time. That's rough sometimes. You know, like I have my my newsletter is due, what's today? Is it the 4th or the 5th?
5th. Well, we're on the 5th, you'll be on the 4th.
Okay, it's due tomorrow, and I haven't, I'm right now, I would say the hardest part is because of this rain is, normally I would be done writing the Tailwinds, which is our Kingdom newsletter. And I've kind of like, I like, what am I going to write this time? Because Tailwinds is where Her Majesty and I, that's where our story lives. And we also put it on our Facebook page, and you had asked me about that before, about how we promote things. We put everything on our page, and we have our Kingdom page, and we have our personal page where people can go and see things. And we have our sing-alongs, our arts and crafts are on there. We have our monthly newsletter. And to me, the storyline, it's important to continue it. Like, my friends don't know what's coming in each letter, and sometimes I include them and they don't know about it. And our last letter, I wrote about how I had to write to my legal counsel. Say it was always a private letter that's included underneath the official letter. It says, hey man, we need to work on your salary because there's some crap going down. You know, I write a little more eloquent like that. But I said, I want you to monitor all correspondence between the Queen, the Prince, the Princess, and the Seneschal. And we got plenty of money, start spreading those bribes, because we want, if we can secure our reign until the end of December, we can reign for decades, right? And, you know, somebody's going to read, they go, what's wrong with Kurn? What's wrong with him? And I'm like, gotta get the joke, people, you know? So the SCA is made for fun. And the parts that are hard are, you know, everybody's cool. Everybody's really cool. I mean, SCA is my second family. I have a really small, you know, by blood family, and I'm very close to my family. But, and I have my best friend from high school, of course. And, but after that, my best friends are in the SCA, and I get a lot of support from my friends, and I think every crown does. And if you haven't thought about fighting in crown, and you care enough about your kingdom to want to give it a shot, go for it. It's a great time. And sure, have I had to do something that I didn't like? Yeah, but I don't want to talk about that. I mean, that's really such a minor part. It really is. Yep. It's so much fun to be in the SCA, and it's if being on the throne was such a pain in the butt, I wouldn't have done it or fought in it. Now, I will say that the first time I wanted to win, the second time I was in terrible shape. I wanted to win, but I won. The third time, it was just for fun, you know. But you know, I was just gonna fight because it's hard for me to sit on the sidelines and watch those guys fight in crown. It's really hard. I want to fight, and you know, so it's there's really the pros so outweigh the cons, and so I couldn't. I mean, without getting into personal stuff that really doesn't matter, with it, you know, something that somebody did or whatever. That's not the SCA. That's usually outside of the SCA. So I don't think. Anyway, I hope I didn't, you know, disappoint you with my answer. But that's what.
No, not at all.
No,
not at all.
Yeah.
But we are going to ask you some questions about Lockhart. How much you know about Lockhart? So, did you know where the Kingdom of Lockhart was before you were asked to do this interview with us?
Yes, of course. So everyone who knows once you join the SCA, everyone knows where Lockhart is, because the idea of like, well, when they hear about there's a kingdom, you know, in Europe, and they're like, well, where else? And you're like, Australia. And you're like, oh, cool. So actually, of course, I knew where Australia was. I mean, my degree is in zoology, and learning about the marsupials of Australia, and that inspired me to get my degree in zoology and learn and study biology and evolution. I always wanted to go to the the Great Barrier Reef, and those would be some of the places that I would love to go. You know, the one thing about the SCA is that whether I've been on the throne or not, everywhere I've gone, I've been treated like royalty. It doesn't matter. You know, everybody treats everybody nice, and sometimes you go to, if I was going to Australia, it'd probably be difficult logistically to get my armor there. I would kind of want to, you know, I want to see how you guys fight and stuff like that. But I know that if I had to, if I could go, and when I do go, maybe if I were to reach out to anyone, just say, hey, my name's Kurn, I'm in the SCA, I'm going to be in town. If I bring the armor, what's up? And or if not, can I just come to one of your events? You know, and I know that people would host me. You know, that's the way SCA people are. It's the beauty of our society.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lockhart is very gracious in their hospitality. And
so unfortunately, I don't know if I know anyone that's from Lockhart. I do know a friend of mine that moved there, and I say he's a friend. He was I knew him from, he was king of Calontir. His name was Sheridan. I think he moved. Okay.
We both know
really
Sheridan well.
Really nice guy, great fighter. He did a thing called the Known World Rattan Symposium. I'm not sure if he ever did it again, but that was one of the inspirations for me trying. It really helped me. It was a DVDs. You had to order the DVD, and I was like, I'm getting it, right? And you had Bellatrix, you had Duncan. And the beauty of that was Duncan was Duke Duncan, he's been king of Trimeris, also been king of I think Adenveld and Anstura. He was going over something and he did something else, and I'm like, what's that? And I could not get in touch with him. And I saw his squire at Gulf Wars, and I was like, hey, no, that's not what I'm talking about. He goes, oh, you got to bend your knees a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, you know, just I love the learning aspect of it. And so I do know Sheridan, and my good friend Sir Tarek, who was at Lockhart when at the event where you became a kingdom. And he tells me the story, and I love it. And I don't know, I know if he ever sees this, he's going to say, that's not what I told you. But this is the legend I know of Lockhart. So I think Uther was king, and he came down and he, you know, did the ceremony and made Lockhart a kingdom, and several knights attended him. And Sir Tarek, he's my boon companion right now. And I'm going to see him tomorrow. He is originally from the East Kingdom, but he's Trimerian now. And he went, and he took a vacation with Pagan, his wife, and they went and traveled. They brought their armor, and they all fought. But the story was, and he's going to tell me it's wrong, but you can tell me if you know any about this. So there's some group of axe berserkers or some order of people who do something of the axe, and they were wrestlers, and Uther ended up wrestling or fighting with the axe or some wrestling every single one of them. And it's like, I was like, what a cool story. You know, it's like, oh, I've morphed it in my mind of what it was. But whenever I think of Lockhart, I think of Tarek telling me the story of Uther going down there and wrestling with the Order of the Axe and Berserker Axe people or whatever. And they like Uther said something about a challenge, or they said that we were axe fighters, and the king said, well, I want to play. And they said, yes, your majesty. And every single one of them, I don't know the story, but that's the part I heard. And don't ruin it for me.
Oh, not at all.
No.
Maybe there's some truth to the story, but that's the part. And I got to meet Uther finally. He was king at Estrella, and we were going to fight at Gulf Wars. So we didn't get to do that. And he's a big, tall guy, so I was a little intimidated by him. He's just big and strong. But you know, if I ever go to Lockhart, I'm gonna go there, bring my armor, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna be like the bad Black Prince of the Round Table, and I'll say I'm like Duke Hirsch of Calontir, or I'll say I can't say I'm Uther of the West, because everybody knows him, I guess, down there. I'm not tall enough, but I'll say I'm somebody else and give a bad name. And then, or there's this guy from Antir whose name is Sven, who I watched him fight. And I can say I'm Sven and give him a bad reputation down there. And then he'll seek me out because I've always wanted to fight him. And it'll be a good way for me to seek him out, or he'll come fight me. So I've always wanted to fight. He's one of the guys I want to check off, you know. Or I could say there's this one guy named Stefan von Dresden, who's from the East Kingdom, he beat me so bad. And I want another crack. He was actually Tarek Squire brother. I want another crack at that guy. I'm not as fast, but I've gotten better. So I could say I'm him and give him a bad reputation, and he'll be mad and come find me. So anyway, I don't know. That's my plan when I come to Locock. I'll say I'm somebody else and do bad things.
Well, that is our.
Is there any truth to that story, or
A little.
okay, a little? Which I know. I mean, the part that Uther was there is true, but is there a group of axe fighters or something? There's a group of axemen.
There is axemen, and if my memory is correct, Conga was pretty much the same weight and size as His Majesty, and they wrestled in court.
Okay, well, see, I didn't know. Maybe you told me that part. I didn't remember it. Well, that's pretty interesting. So the renown of the axemen of Locock is
Huge.
Well, okay. So what would you recommend if I come to? So what I'm saying, the Barrier Reef is Brisbane. We were talking about that earlier. Remember that. So where and Tarek said that there's one of the events that he went to is a big event, and I can't remember the name of it. What's your biggest event that everyone from all over comes to?
We have one in New Zealand, which is like the big event in New Zealand is Canterbury Fair. And we have Roni Festival in
Roni?
Yeah, Roni Festival.
Okay, that's the one you told me. He said it's really big. Yeah. So what time of the year is that one?
April.
Easter.
Yeah. Is Roni, and Canterbury Fair is January, and it's beautiful over there. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I bet. Oh. Yeah. Starting to get cooled off in April. That's kind of like your fall, or you're starting to get into winter. So probably the weather is really nice. So I have I had to change jobs recently. Some family members have some illnesses, and I want to be able to spend time with them. So I'm teaching virtually. So if April would definitely be when I'm teaching. If I did come, I could maybe, teach and play. I could maybe make it work, so I have a little bit of flexibility in that now. And it's, I didn't want anybody to know that I had that. But anyway, not the flexibility. I didn't want them to know that I had.
Tell yourself.
Anyway, you know what? My friends know why I changed my jobs. It's my family. So anyway, but they'll all find out now. So, yeah, right. But anyway, not your fault. But I would like to go to, I went to Europe last summer. I went to Hungary and Poland and Romania. And it was just sightseeing, and I did not bring my anything SCA. I went with family. And but I would like to go to Europe or Australia and not only experience the SCA, the country, because Australia is unique for the reasons that I like, which is the animals. It'd be great to experience the SCA there. So, but the animals, you don't consider the animals unique?
Oh, very much so. Very
much so. Yes.
Yeah. I work for the Department of Environment in my state, and the fact that kangaroos can change the sex of their joeys depending on the quantity of males and females in the herd, and that they can also prolong a pregnancy depending on whether it's a dry season or a wet season is amazing. Like, it's just so.
Well, I knew the second part. I mean, I knew the second part about prolonging their pregnancies. I did not, so although my degree is in zoology, I haven't focused on, and actually I like chemistry and physics. I like teaching chemistry and physics. I love animals, but teaching chemistry and physics is really cool. You get to blow stuff up in class. Like, hey, if you do this, I'm going to blow something up. You hydrogen you make some hydrogen gas and light a balloon. And it's fun. But yeah, I would love to come to Locock, not just for the country of Australia, but for just to see how the SCA is played over there. I always wondered how, like in Drachenwald, in America, and I don't know, you can tell me if this is the same in Australia, we drive everywhere. Everything is in cars. In Europe, it's, you know, it's mass transportation is much more prevalent. What about in Australia? Are you guys mass transportation, or are you everybody in cars?
It's a
It
7-hour
depends.
flight sometimes to get to a group from one side of Australia to the other.
And in Europe, they do that too. They fly from this one to that one, and then, you know, they go around. We don't do that. We drive because we take tons of stuff, you know.
Yeah,
America is
no,
the country of big trucks.
it depends on the event that you're going to. So for where Lilya and I live, to go to Canterbury Fair, we have to fly because it's another country that's 3,000 kilometers away.
Right.
But it's actually quicker for us on the eastern coast of Australia to get to New Zealand than it is to get to the other side of Australia.
Right, New Zealand's in the southeast, right?
Yes.
Right.
But Australia is around about the same size as the US in terms of the size of it, but our population is very, very different.
Well, it's you know, if you take a look at where our desert is in the center of the United States, it's pretty sparse there too. And you guys have a central desert in Australia as well. I mean, and everywhere in the world, people live usually around the coast. So that's usually where your population is you know, dense. And same here.
So on that note, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our interview. So
okay, sure.
Would like to thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll get some wayfaring from your kingdom to ours and from ours to yours. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you ever end up in Florida, call me.
Yep.
Right?
We regret that.
Send a scroll, right? Don't hesitate. And I can speak for our kingdom. Doesn't matter who's on the throne. If you contact our seneschal, you contact our king and queen, you contact the member of an order or the principal of an order, anyone, it's just easier to contact those people. We'll hook you up. We'll take care of you. So that was fun. I enjoyed meeting you, and I hope you have fun with all these interviews. And it was good to go first or second, I guess. So I don't know what to, don't have to worry about looking like a fool. So anyway, it was nice. It was nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.